I would like to propose that there's no real such thing as competitors in business. That if there's someone else in a similar industry to you or similar demographic or product line or service line, that you are teammates along with every other business out there, that you're not competitors. And some supporting facts, I guess. So let's say you have a company that goes out and mows lawns. Um, and there's another guy, Bob, across the street that also has a lawn mowing business. Now, in small situations, there can be you can flood the market or saturate the market with different things. But in most situations, there's so much work to go around that doesn't really happen. What does happen is, first of all, let's say you and Bob both have a similar business in a similar area. Bob mows lawns and he does about the same type of work that you do for a similar price, and you do similar price and work to Bob. Um, so first, let's say that Bob is a poor service provider, that he does a bad job of it. He doesn't get the job done very well. He shows up late. He misses a lot of appointments. He overbooks his schedule. He mixes up his estimate and often overcharges people, or has a lot of surprises there at the end of the checkout. So let's say that's your competitor. And you might say, great, my competitor's lousy, so I'll make a bunch of money. But let's say Bob goes around to 10 houses and gets all 10 of those customers. It'd be more like he gets like 1 out of 10. So like let's say he goes to 100 houses and shows up and gets 10, 20, 30 customers. Those 30 customers hire him. They set a date to come, and he comes out, does the job, and the customers are really dissatisfied with the work. So right now they are turned off to that service, to having someone else come out and mow their lawn. They would rather do it themselves or anything besides hiring somebody. They'd rather just let the lawn grow than go through that again. And then let's say you come by walking on one of those doors. Not only are they dissatisfied, they have told all their neighbors how horrible it was dealing with Bob. And you come by and knock on the door and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to mow your lawn for you if you want. I charge this, and they won't even let you get past that because they were so upset with Bob. And so they just turn you away, and they go on another rampage through the neighborhood and Facebook and all the other medias and ways they can contact people and just say, don't hire anybody to do your lawn, or something like that. So that was your competitor. That was a bad that was a bad competitor, and it hurt your business. But on the other hand, let's say Bob is amazing. Let's say Bob is an amazing at cutting lawns. He does a nice job. He cleans up everything afterwards. There's nothing left on the driveway or the sidewalk. He cleans up all the materials. There's not a single loose piece of grass left on the lawn. It's very, very flat and flush. He offers recommendations in a timely and succinct manner as far as ways to improve the lawn. So like, it's getting a little dry over here, you might try shifting the sprinkler. If you want, I can do that for you right now. This spot has a little hole and divot. If you want, I can patch that for you. It'll look brown it'll be covered in fertilizer for a little while until the seed can start to grow, but it will level that spot out. This spot can use some aerating, and such and such. That Bob is an amazing at customer service and getting the job done well and showing up on time and all that. So Bob does it, and then you're going around the neighborhood, and you knock on a door. Say you knock on that same door, and they say, "Oh, I really would like to hire you, but I've already got a service going with. I've already hired Bob to manage my lawn care. But you could check with the neighbors or so." And that person has gone around and advertised to the neighborhood about how amazing Bob and his lawn care business is. And that it was so much nicer, and they're advertising not just Bob and his business, but they're advertising hiring people to do work that normally is done by the homeowner. They're advertising lawn care businesses. They're advertising trusting other people and all these other things. And so all that advertising is going out. And you go out to another person and say like 5 people in the neighborhood have decided they would rather go. They really, really like what their neighbor had said about Bob, so they want to go with Bob. But they still are turned on to lawn care businesses. And let's say there's 20 more people in the neighborhood. Let's say 10 of those 20 people left heard about the lawn care business and have really thought about hiring somebody because they really want to hire somebody, but they weren't sure about hiring Bob specifically, or they weren't super set on hiring Bob. You go up to them and they are kind of primed or pre-set to hire you, or their disposition is turned in your favor. And so let's say where you normally get 1 out of 10, this time you get 5 out of 10, or 8 out of 10, or 10 out of 10. And so in that situation, it helped to have a good competitor or a good teammate, even though he in some ways could be stealing business from you. By him being a good worker and doing business well, it helps you out. There's other ways, there's all these different ways that you can look at it as a competitor, I guess, that they're stealing customers, they're taking over the market, they're making me look bad, but just there's so much work to go around that often we can't handle it all. So there's a few different things with that maybe we can get into later, but for right now we're just dealing with service industries, and service industries done by small businesses. It becomes a different matter when you add automation and mechanization into it, when you can have a machine just go and do something. Like if you're doing some kind of service online or some kind of product or something like that, where you can just have a machine go and make 100 or 200 or 2,000 depending on the thing, and it doesn't really matter. It won't take that extra time to do the job. That's a little bit different as far as that, but a lot of the same principles apply. Even if one business could satisfy the market as far as offering those services and being able to provide the demand, it still helps. So let's get into a few different principles. Another one is availability, or ability to quench demand, or to supply for demand. If you look at gas stations, some people might say it's bad business to be near competitors, that it's better to go off on your own and be separate so that you're not competing. But if you look at gas stations, a lot of them will, I don't know, not a lot of them, but several of them will bunch together, that you'll have one gas station and another gas station right next door, and sometimes one across the street. And that might seem like a terrible idea, but if you've got a situation like that, let's say one gas station gets full of cars. A lot of people won't drive an extra 5 miles, 10 miles to get to that same type of gas station. So let's say there's a Chevron, a Shell, and an Arco. So the Arco is the cheap one, and the Shell and the Chevron are the high quality gas. And so let's say someone wants high quality gas, so they go to the Chevron and it's full, and then they go across, and then they could drive 5 miles down to the next Chevron, but there's a Shell right across, so they go over to the Shell until that's filled up. Now, as far as high quality gas, I do know some people that will totally ignore Arcos like they don't exist. And some people will totally ignore Chevrons like they don't exist if they don't want to pay the extra, I don't know, 20 cents a gallon. But anyway, you can, when you have multiple stations all next to each other, suddenly if one gets filled up, then another one is available. And so that does a few things. One, it opens up the immediate need of, if you have a potential customer that wants to get gas right now, if your station is full, they'll go to the neighbors. And then conversely, if the neighbors is full, then they'll come to yours. And so you get that immediate need filled. But then in the public mind, people now realize if your station had a reputation of getting filled, of having long lines and stuff, then people might just ignore or so people get in the car and are driving to work, to the store, to something, or they're just getting in the car and they just want to go get gas. So they decide their route. They decide, I'm going to go to this place to get gas. But if they know that that place often has long lines, they'll totally ignore that and they won't even get near your place. They'll go that 5 miles to begin with to the other place because they don't want to just wait in line. Possibly getting like a fender bender or something like that. But if they happen to know that, yes, there are long lines in this place, but there's always a spot available because there's 3 more gas stations right there, they'll likely come to your place intending to go to their designated or their most desirable location, but they know they'll still come to your place because even if your place is full, they can go to the neighbors. And so it helps you a ton because suddenly you have this circle of people that will go to your place even if there's long lines. But then the next group out, say, adds like 110% or 200% or 1,000% customers or potential customers if they know they can get gas whether or not your place is full, or whether as long as they know they won't have to wait in line. So there's that. And just these things with the public mind or the public mindset, a lot of them, it makes sense to treat your competitors as teammates, not competitors. So there's and then on top of teammates, as far as just existing there, you can work with your competitors or teammates to provide better situation for yourself and better situation for your customers. As far as better situation for yourself, you can negotiate either like on a item by item basis as far as like pricing and things like that with your competitor teammates, or you could just kind of create a good social environment and understanding where you work together on things and you create certain strategies of like, okay, I'm not going to go beyond a 5-cent difference from your product. Or if you raise your prices, I'm going to raise my prices. If you lower your prices, I'm going to lower my prices. So that we don't so we don't rock the boat too much. But there's lots of different things. Like if you're going to offer a bathroom, I'm going to offer a bathroom. If you are going to sell Gatorade, I'm going to sell Gatorade. Or you could make it different. That you could say, I'll sell the Gatorade if you want to sell the health food or whatever. That you can negotiate with your competitors to be more than yourself. And this really comes into play with specialization. That when you're both specializing and just hard hammered into the same thing exactly, you can get discouraged because it looks like the market is getting full, or the market is getting saturated very quickly. That say you're in a business where it's a service that is only used once a year, or a service that is only used once every 5 years. Replacing wood stoves. That might only happen once every 10, 20, 30 years. That someone just buys a stove and they use it for a long, long time. And so you being a salesman or a installer or something like that might see it as a very large infringement for any similar businesses, that your market availability seems very, very limited. But again, if you have a bad competitor that goes out and does a terrible job and advertises basically to those customers and their neighbors and their neighbors' neighbors that getting a wood stove or having it installed by someone else or purchasing one from a certain dynamic is just bad business to begin with, then there's going to be a whole bunch of bad advertising for your industry. And on the other hand, if you have a good competitor, not only is that going to be not that bad advertising, it's going to be a lot of good advertising. And again, there's going to be a few that go with him, then he's going to take that part of the market, but there's going to be so many more on the outskirts of that are just basically turned on to the idea of your service or product, of getting a wood stove, and that aren't locked in with that particular business. This is 17 minutes so far. Okay. I lost my train of thought. So it's good to have good competitors. And then on top of that, there's specialization. That when you get into a highly specialized thing, like only offering one service in one way to a certain demographic in a certain area at a certain price, then it might seem very limited. But there's always things you can change, and there's always little tweaks and differences. And if you have competitors, your competitors can take on a certain set of things, and you can take on a different set of things, and you guys can work together and do more than you could on your own, and actually get better business than instead of, it's not like there's an apple and you have to cut it in half and get one each. It's more like there's an orchard full of apples, and if you're there picking them yourself, then you might have to go out with, like, I don't know, like you just like grab your shirt or like a big bag and you're loading them up one by one. But let's say you get a partner and like some wheelbarrows or something, and like you just start loading up a wheelbarrow, and he can be taking wheelbarrows back and forth and be sorting the apples while you're picking. And suddenly, instead of getting that, it's not you each get half as much. So it's not like you were getting so many apples and now you're getting half. It's not there's enough to go around and you're each going to get the same as you were before. It's that you could be getting more. You could each be getting more than you were before. That someone else comes in and it might look like you're going to get less because he's there and taking some of what you could be getting. But if you work together, so like, let's say you get 1 ton of apples every year harvested and sold. But with help, suddenly you get between the two of you, you get 5 tons picked, sorted, and sold. And so that'd be 2.5 for each of you. And even if he's not very good, but you work together to just make sure that you don't cause negatives or cause bad things. So let's say he's not that skilled, or not that, he's got some quirks or things. If you work with him, if you work with him and try to be a mentor and a counselor and help him out, that would be better than doing all you can to just ruin him. Because then he's causing less problems, and he could potentially so he might be trying to work at this level, and he's doing it poorly and causing bad advertising. But if you try and counsel him and show him how he could perform well at this level, then he's creating good advertising, and he's succeeding, and has potential to grow back up to this level. And just, I mean, like, you can't control everybody, or you can't really control anybody, but you can control yourself, and you can use your influence in different ways. If you go around you can go around tearing things down, or you can go around building things up. You can go around helping others, or you can go around hurting others. So let's say the opposite. Someone comes into the market who is way more skilled than you. Someone that is operating at this level and has so many more resources and skills and availability and experience and all that, and you're down here. Again, if you go fighting him, then that's just going to tear more people away. That's just going to cause more tearing, and they're likely going to go with him because he's operating he's doing a much better job than you are. And if you go around advertising that he's around and that he's doing all this stuff, and you go around like bad mouthing him or this or that, then you are advertising. It's not deceit. You're advertising people to be mistrusting and look at the flaws and stuff. And if they look at the things more critically, you're advertising criticism. You're advertising criticality, to be critical of things, especially those types of services that you offer. And if they start looking at those things, yes, you can for a while fool them into thinking, and into just saying, like, by you just mentioning like every little flaw with his work and praising every little detail with your work, for a little while you might be able to sway them in your favor of kind of hoodwinking them into thinking your work is better than his for some reason. But if his work is really better and your work is really inferior, over time people are going to notice, yeah, it's really better to go with this guy. But if you go around and are supportive and kind and appreciative and understanding of him, then it's going to help. It's advertising to others to be understanding and appreciative of that kind of work, and you're doing that kind of work, so it's appreciative of you too. And not only that, if you go and work with the other guy to try and find some understandings, he might not want to do stuff at this level. So you might be really good at cleanup, and he might be really good at, or you might be really good at demolition and cleanup, and he might be really good at construction and certification and licenses and all that. He might be like a licensed plumber, contractor, electrician, with 20 years experience and insurance, and can do contracting and even hire out, or it can even and has done subcontracting and all that stuff. So he can handle these big high risk projects, and so he can handle that. But because he has those abilities and because he has that stuff, that actually limits him in other things, that it wastes his time to be doing things at this level. So for him to go around and rake leaves, that people are, it's going to be bad for his business for him to go around doing that, because people are, in order for him to charge what he charges, he has to be doing work at this level, and he would be wasting his time to be going around and like doing this. So if a customer wants work at this level done and this level, and they say we want both accomplished, then it would be helpful to him to be able to do work up here and have somebody doing this work down here. And that's where you come in. And on the other hand, if you can do work down at this level, but